Okay, welcome back. Step 2 is rocking your kickoff meeting. So let's just recap, making sure this is really gelling up. So you've read your funding guidelines and you're going to prepare your narrative skeleton, and it is then time to develop a grant task schedule so you know what you're going to be doing when, and then also hosting a super fabulous kickoff, which I'll explain why that's so important in a second. Okay, so here is the grant writing schedule template that we provide. It's super nifty. Actually, you can take where you see it says December 15th, you can actually double click that and click a new date, and then it'll auto-populate basically 2 months of tasks for you, which obviously you're going to move them around based on your specific application, but it gives you a nice starting point and sort of some realistic deadlines to work with. So that's that, but we're keeping things simple, so I'm going to actually focus on the kickoff meeting and how to make sure you nail it when you host that, but just recognize that this is in the course and is a really helpful tool. So now it is time to host your kickoff meeting, and why do they matter? So this is a little bit of a bold statement, but frankly, I think I'm just going to say it because I see it time and time again. Your success as a grant writer is completely going to hinge on how well your kickoff meeting goes, because it really sets the tone for how you're going to run your project as a project manager, because fundamentally that's what you are when you're a grant writer. So your happiness, the fulfillment that you're going to experience, and then the success does correlate to how your kickoff meeting goes. So keep that in mind and really take this part seriously. So what is a kickoff meeting? As the name implies, it's when you're gathering everyone involved in the project to complete the grant application. And this is where everyone's on the same page, and you're just going to assign like who's doing what, make sure we all agree on the scope, that sort of thing. Now, a lot of times I know grant writing is a lonely business and you're kind of set out there to go and do it all yourself. But even if you are doing 90% of the workload yourself, never skip this step, because you have to have other people involved to be a success. It is a team sport. So you still want to make sure you have a really strong kickoff, everyone's got your back, and they're going to help you execute this application. Now, for best results, we recommend that you demonstrate genuine appreciation for people to give you time working on a grant application. Most people think grant writing is like a form of torture, right? So they just think, I don't even want to touch that. That looks miserable. So what you can do to overcome that is you create a really positive experience for people to say, hey, thank you for working with me on this. So we have brought, cookies from a favorite bakery. In fact, one time we even did a kickoff meeting where we brought literally unicorn gift bags with chocolate and pens and notepads in it, just to get everyone really, really pumped up and excited to work with us. So it goes a long way to think about how you can add a little extra flair to your kickoff meeting so it stands out from the rest of your routine meetings, and you run one that is really, really positive and everyone's pumped about it. So below you can access our sample kickoff meeting agenda, which frankly is usable for all of your future meeting agendas. So you can go ahead and go access that. Remember, it's a Google Doc, so you have to go File, Make a Copy, and then you can save it to your Google Drive. If you're a Microsoft Word user, remember you go File, Download, and then as a Microsoft Word document. Now, because we write grant applications, our team, when projects all over the US and sometimes Canada, we're not bringing a printed agenda to a meeting. So what we have found is far more efficient is actually to just keep adding the agenda for subsequent progress meetings on top of this current one. And that means that all of your work, all of your meetings, everything people agree to do is all in one document, and it's easier for people to pull that up and be able to keep track of it. So that's just a little pro tip that we're experiencing as we kind of evolve into an even more digital and collaborative world. So keep that in mind. Now, to give you kind of a rundown of what that looks like, you're welcome to go check out the chapter in our book where we actually talk about this, and also when you just see it pulled up, you'll see kind of how we lay things out. But essentially, you want to have a memo that describes who's going, what's the purpose. So have introductions if for some reason you have people participating that maybe don't know each other well. And then always set an objective, a goal for the meeting. So it might be, we're agreeing on how to best pursue said grant application, right? You're going to go over the objective or the overview of the project, which is just making sure everyone's on the same page, because surprisingly, common. It is surprisingly common that maybe people aren't exactly aligned on that. So you're making sure you're clear on scope. And then you start going through the questions. And these are the questions that you would have discovered while preparing your narrative skeleton. And sometimes it's even helpful to just link the narrative skeleton and let people look at it ahead of time, because it's amazing what people will think about that you don't know. Like, oh, you know what? Like 5 years ago, we actually did a study on this that you could totally use as a data point. You're like, awesome, great, I had no idea. So it can be very helpful to let people see the skeleton of the application and fully appreciate what you're getting ready to basically take on. So just another kind of word of advice. Obviously, don't ask silly questions that you can just get an answer for in email, right? You can just do those one-on-one, but this is where you're kind of focusing on those bigger pieces that the group needs to agree upon. You might also then break out who's doing what in terms of narrative and all of the attachments, which we show in the course how to prepare a checklist at the beginning, which your future self will love you for when you get to the end of the grant. But that is a helpful piece. And then you close out with a schedule. So a tentative schedule of what's getting done. You can provide them with that last schedule we just provided you, or just build a simple one into your Word document. And that is a good way for people to say, oh, actually, the week the grant is due, I'm going to be on vacation. Good to know. And then you can plan around that, right? So that is a meeting agenda. Every single meeting you have should have one of these, right? Because then everyone stays on track. If you can, keep your meetings to 45 to 50 minutes so people have the energy in that last 10 to go do the things they said they would do. And then for progress meetings, we try to keep those at 25 minutes so that, again, people have time and energy to go do the things they said they would do after the meeting. So that is kind of the 101 on rocking your kickoff meeting. It's super important. Promise me you'll always have an agenda in your meetings. So that's that. Let's roll into step 3, which is developing your grant budget.